Beach County. And we are here today to welcome Mike Burke, who is the new superintendent of the Palm Beach County School District. But first, I have a few commercial breaks. I have to say the League of Women Voters of Palm Beach County shall not support or oppose any political party or candidate. We are a nonpartisan group. The League discourages all members from making partisan comments at League meetings about elected officials, political party activities, or candidates that would tend to inhibit discussion by people with opposing views. We do study political issues and make recommendations to our members about issues that are important to us. We also work diligently to be nonpartisan. We are a group of men and women who want to ensure democracy and voting rights. I also need to inform you that this is being recorded live and also being recorded by Channel 25. So now to the good part. I want to introduce Mr. Michael Burke, Superintendent of the School District of Palm Beach County. He has served South Florida education community for more than 30 years and was named the Superintendent of the School District of Palm Beach County in July of 2021. Mr. Burke joined the School District of Palm Beach County in 1998, where he has served as Budget Director, Chief Financial Officer, and Chief Operating Officer, serving as both Chief Financial Officer and Operating Officer from 2012 to 2016. As Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Burke sat on the Superintendent's Executive and Academic Cabinet and is responsible for district financial management and information technology divisions. Financial management included accounting, budget, enterprise resource planning, FTE and student reporting, purchasing, risk and benefits management, federal programs, and treasury. He has won many honors for his great work for the School District of Palm Beach County, including the Bill Wise Award presented by the Council of Great City Schools. In 1975, he received the Superintendent's Outstanding Leadership Award through the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County. And I have to say, I have worked with Mr. Burke. Oftentimes we were on opposite sides of the table during negotiations, but I have to say he was always fair and helpful to the teachers and when I worked with the teachers union. So I do thank Mr. Burke. He was always a gentleman, always had his numbers, and he is extremely fiscally responsible for the citizens of Palm Beach County. So he also, I should tell you, he earned a Bachelor of Science in Finance from Florida State University and a Master's of Public Administration from Florida Atlantic University. He grew up here in South Florida and has a wife and 3 grown children. So Mr. Burke, thank you so much, Superintendent. And it's great to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Gunlock. It's great to see you as well. And we do have some history. We worked together for years. Dr. Gunlock was with the district. It was all positive. So it's really nice to see you again. And to the League of Women Voters, this is actually it's my first time meeting with you as superintendent, but actually I've had the opportunity over the years to meet with you really in the course of our district pursuing referendums to improve school funding here in Palm Beach County. And I can't thank the League enough. You guys have always been so supportive. I really appreciate how you dig through the issues. I've benefited from the materials you put out and attending your sessions, when we get a slew of constitutional amendments that can be very tricky to understand what the true impact is. So I really value the work you do and for providing this forum where we can present, what issues are facing the school district and on occasion, reach out for support through our voters. So thank you for that. I've got a presentation today to take you through, and then we'll have time for questions. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And hopefully you're seeing our theme there, which it's your time to shine. And that's our theme for this school year, coming out of thought we were coming out of the darkness of the pandemic. We finished last school year, and unfortunately with the Delta variant, it's been a little more challenging than we hoped for, but we're working through that. I do have about a 2.5-minute video I'd like to play for the group. So I'm going to go ahead and start that.
The school year is off to a great start in the school district of Palm Beach County. Students and teachers are all back together for in-person instruction. The school year is off to a great start in the school district of Palm Beach County. Students and teachers are all back together for in-person instruction. 3 schools were completely modernized.
A high quality facility makes kids feel good about coming to school. They feel safe and they absolutely learn better.
Our new building is fantastic, and I cannot wait to spend the whole school year here.
Teachers are focused on mitigating unfinished learning due to COVID-19 and closing achievement gaps that existed even before the pandemic.
Reading teachers, additional math support, and you're going to even find on our high school campuses, teachers that are focusing on our SAT and ACT cohort. Schools are going to be receiving additional tutorial dollars to where all of our students are going to be benefiting from.
Behavioral health professionals, which are on every campus thanks to the 2018 referendum, maintain a focus on mental health and wellness, and many campuses have peaceful spaces designed to support students and staff.
Don't be shy.
Portable air purifiers are in every elementary classroom and school clinics, with more on the way. School custodial teams continue to keep campuses clean, sanitized, and stocked with necessary supplies. Electrostatic sprayers are used as needed. School nurses from the healthcare district are on each campus caring for students' daily medical needs and able to administer rapid COVID-19 testing for symptomatic students with parental permission. The healthcare district is also partnering with the school district to make vaccinations available to eligible students, those 12 and older, and district staff. The goal of this collaboration is to make the immunization process as convenient and as accessible as possible. Vaccines are not mandatory and will not be administered to students under the age of 18 without parental consent. Athletics return with new safety protocols for participants and spectators.
To have everyone here together as a team, honestly, there's nothing like it.
All students have access to free breakfast and lunch. The school district of Palm Beach County is committed to school and community safety and looks forward to a successful school year.
Okay, I hope you're all able to see and hear that video. It just gives you a little feel for the start of our school year. Some quick stats about the district. We are the 10th largest nation in the nation, Palm Beach County. You know, Florida school districts are big because we align with our county line. So you've got Miami-Dade County, Broward, Hillsborough, Orange County, and Palm Beach. Some of the biggest districts in the country are right here in Florida. And we're currently number 10. Our budget just reached over $4 billion. It was adopted last night by the school board. And that's our budget with all funds, which includes capital budget, special revenue, the new federal ESSER dollars, the American Rescue Plan monies, and all of that. We've got our graduation rate hit a new high last year at 94.4%. We've been in the 90% range for a little while now, for a couple of years. We did actually see a spike, and some of that was a result of the state relaxing some of the testing requirements that seniors face. So we actually got a little bit of a boost there, and we're going to try to maintain that. You'll see technology on here that we have the sales tax, you know, that the league was supportive of in 2016, where that 1 penny sales tax, that's helping also the county and the city governments, but the district gets half of that money. That allowed us, we had started a project to improve classroom technology, including an instructional smart board or smart panel. And we were rolling those out and coming down the tail end just as the pandemic hit us. So we really scrambled from March of 2020, that in time for the start of the school year, that following August, that we got all those smart panels deployed. And that positioned us well for that pivot to distance learning. So our teachers had cameras in our classrooms, they had the smart panel. They could see students from home on the panel. And that really proved out to be well-timed and fortuitous that we had the benefit of that referendum and the technology already on the way. We also purchased 80,000 Chromebooks last summer and another 30,000 this summer to make sure all of our students have a one-to-one device, right? Each student has a Chromebook that they can take home if needed. And that was key in dealing with some of these challenges brought on to us by COVID. Oops. So the other thing I just want to point out, the county government is very, very generous and gracious. They are using some of their federal dollars to help us with a Wi-Fi mesh project. And what this will do is provide internet access to some of our families that typically have gone without. And when it's completed, we estimate about 25,000 students will have access at home to internet through this Wi-Fi mesh network. In the interim, we did things last school year to close that digital divide. We found when we first pivoted distance learning at the end of the 2020 school year that we had about 15% of our kids that just did not have access. So we purchased T-Mobile hotspots that we provided for free to families so they could take home and get connected. And we also partnered with Comcast to provide an essential internet account for free to families in need. And that was key in trying to make sure all kids had access when many students were learning from home. We've opened some new schools this year. This is actually an architect rendering of a future new school. But this year we opened up Addison Meisner down in Boca. It's a K-8 school, brand new campus. The year before that, we had Verde Elementary, which was a new campus modernization, which basically means we knock it down and rebuild it. We expanded Plumosa School of the Arts this year with a new expansion of that campus to serve grades 6 through 8. So there's a new building for the middle school age students. And then O5C is going to be another new school. This is a brand new school down in Boca Raton next to Don Estridge Middle School. And the current name's O5C. I'm hoping we come up with something a little catchier than that. Right now, they're defining alphanumerics. That's my joke. But we're going to work with the community to get a name for that school, and they can pick a true mascot. High School O is going to be our first new high school in over 15 years. This school is going to be, it's out on the kind of the western Lake Worth area, out by Lyons Road. And we're pretty excited about this. This will open in August of 2023. And okay, here's a picture with some people that are happy to have their mask on. I don't know if you noticed, but masks have been somewhat of an issue. And of course, I'm being sarcastic. Masks have been a huge issue for us, right? Much debate. We started the school year with a mask optional policy where parents could write a note. They felt like they didn't want their child to wear a mask in school. That flexibility was provided to parents through the governor's orders. And, as we got into the school year, we found about 12,000 of our students opted out of the mask in that first couple of weeks of school. And so that was about 6 or 7% of our total population, not a huge number. But, as the Delta variant kind of raged through our community and we saw children getting sick and going to the hospital and our positivity rate got over 19%, our school board had to kind of wrestle with a tough decision. And they decided that their paramount responsibility was to keep people safe, to keep our children and our staff safe. And they went ahead and kind of defied the governor's executive order. And we have had a mask mandate in place. They did that through an emergency policy that's in place for the next 90 days. And they've allowed themselves some flexibility to revisit as needed. But right now, there's been some back and forth in the courts. We had a judge in Tallahassee, Judge Cooper, that had kind of ruled in our favor that the governor's order went too far and that we should have this kind of local authority to do what we need to do. And just more recently, the governor's appeal removed the Tallahassee, the local judge's stay. And now we're technically, I guess we're on the wrong side of the governor's law again. This is going to continue to play out in court. And we're going to continue to monitor conditions here locally and try to make the best decisions to keep everyone safe. So this is our COVID dashboard. This gets updated twice a day, 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And we want the community to be able to see the number of cases we have in our schools. We've had over 4,500 cases since the start of school years. 3,900 plus of those are students, and then about 600 are employees. And so that's a pretty alarming number. when we look at all of last school year, we had 3,800 cases. So now, just a few weeks into the school year, we've already eclipsed that. And this is creating some challenges. The positive cases are one thing, but when we have a positive case on our schools, we then have to do the contact tracing, and we end up sending home a lot of students that are potentially exposed. And that's been a huge burden on our schools, and it's no picnic for our parents either. They have to make arrangements for childcare. We're wrestling. This is probably our biggest challenge right now, because we are sending home on any given day. It had been as high as 5,000 students. This week, it's been more than about 2,500. But these students that we're sending home to be safe, so they're not at risk of spreading the virus. The good news is the vast majority of them are not coming down with COVID. They remain negative, and we're having very few positives of the students we send home. So that's kind of the rub, right? We're following Department of Health guidelines, sending students home to do the right thing from a safety perspective. But the unintended consequence is now our students are missing out again on a lot of instructional time and falling behind. And this is extremely frustrating after coming off a school year where we had, 35% of our students never came on campus. And we know that's had a negative impact on learning, both like academic and social emotional. So we're looking at things we might be able to do to help alleviate this. We're looking at some districts, just a few across the country, have done what they call test to stay programs, where rather than sending the student home, you start testing the student daily. And there's a lot of logistics behind that if we were going to do that type of volume of COVID testing and being able to turn that around quick enough. So we're sorting through that. In the meantime, as students get sent home, we are providing them with their work. We're utilizing some of the technology we used last year with the Google Classroom, where their assignments get posted. We have support available where students can call in and try to get help if they have questions. But I can tell you it's not ideal. The best place for our students would be in the classroom, and that's what we want to keep working towards. We've done some things to try to help, if people are interested in getting vaccinated, to make it readily available so our students 12 and older can get vaccinated. So we have partnered with the healthcare district to dispatch a mobile vaccination site to our high schools. They're circling through all of our high schools, and then in 3 weeks, they'll go back through again to administer the second shot. This is having, we are getting more students vaccinated, but I was hoping it would have a bigger impact. One of the requirements is that for the student to get vaccinated, their parent has to be present if they're under 18. I think that might be a little bit of a challenge. And so we're trying to really communicate well, and our principals are doing announcements and really encouraging anyone who's interested to take advantage of this. We also have, and that was on the other thing we're doing is some testing. We've got a testing site now at the Chuck Shaw Technical Education Center, and we hope to do more of that, where both students and staff that may have been exposed are welcome to go get a free test so they can confirm, hopefully, that they're negative. Our school nurses, Palm Beach County is fortunate. Not all school districts have a nurse in every school. And we've had a longstanding partnership with the healthcare district where they provide that nurse. Through our contract with the healthcare district, these nurses are able to test students with parental consent if the student is showing symptoms. So that's all they're able to help us with right now. We would like to get into more testing, maybe for even, like I said, those students are asymptomatic, but may have been exposed, and we're trying to keep them on campus. And then the school nurses are not able to test our employees. So we are working on other avenues for that. Mask gets all the attention, but I want to just remind the group that we are still we have a multi-layered approach to trying to protect our students, employees from COVID. That we continue to have a enhanced cleaning in place, as you saw in the video. We've really stocked up on all the cleaning supplies, the paper products, just making it simple things, making sure that the students are washing their hands frequently, and that there's plenty of soap and paper towels to do that. We've got MERV 13 filters installed in all of our schools for our classrooms, which is important. That's one of the really highly recommended measures that you put in place. We've been replacing some of our HVAC units. We've rolled out 13,000 portable HEPA air purifiers to our classrooms, as you saw in the video. And then the electrostatic sprayers they're helpful when we have to come in and do some more intensive cleaning, or that if we have to contaminate a large area, the custodians can use that equipment to kind of spray the room and move through fairly quickly. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, we know that COVID's had a negative impact on learning, and our test scores this past spring, which I'm going to get into in a minute, demonstrated that, right? We knew this was not going to be ideal. And so now the big challenge is, how do we catch up? How do we get kids back on track? And so we started in this past spring with what we called our student academic support plan. And thanks to the federal government, we've got a pretty healthy dose of resources for the next 3 years to try to address all the challenges with COVID and get kids back on track. And so we are putting these dollars to work. Over the next 3 years, we have over $500 million in the American Rescue Plan dollars, which is ESSER 3. And there's also the previous round of federal funds, ESSER 2. And we're making plans to use those dollars. It's already underway. We started with some tutorial services last spring. Then our summer program this past summer was much more robust and expanded. And you're going to see a large summer school program for the next 3 years in our county. On top of that, we've deployed 350 specialized teaching positions to our schools. These are teachers that will help with programs like reading recovery for some of the younger students to get them reading and proficient on grade level. We're going to have experts, algebra teachers that can help support students that may have a challenge getting through Algebra 1. We've got graduation specialists that are going to help high school kids that were maybe a few credits shy of graduating, and then their lives got interrupted by the pandemic and they may have had to go to work to help support their family. We want to make sure we get those students to the finish line and get their degree. So there's a lot of facets to this academic support plan. And it will continue to evolve over the next 3 years as we kind of adjust and tailor supports to best meet the needs of our students. All right, so here's some of the test score data. And in Palm Beach County, we work really hard. We're a high performing district. We're an A-rated district, and we're proud of that. We want to maintain that title. Just in short, our test results we did okay. We outperformed other large districts. We outperformed the state in many areas, but I don't really want to celebrate them. What we found by and large was that in English language arts, overall, our test results fell about 4 to 5%. And in math was especially hard hit. The test scores fell on average about 15%. So we have some students that were very resilient and they managed to test well and all that, no matter what was thrown at them. But by and large, we feel like there has been a setback. Our students have suffered, and that's not unique to Palm Beach County. That's across the state and the country. So as I look at the test scores, it's great to be able to say, okay, we did a little better than the rest of the state here and there, but I don't want to lose sight of the big challenge is that we've got a long way to go to catch up. And even when we catch up, we've had some disparities where there's some, students on the lower socioeconomic end of things tend to fare worse than the more affluent families. So those disparities that we saw that we've been dealing with for decades in public education, they've also widened through this experience. So we've got a lot of work to do. Another part of that's going to be the state is shifting standards again. So you may recall a few years back, there was a lot of publicity around the Common Core standards, and that was a national initiative. And then Florida, I think Florida moved to what they called the Florida state standards. And that was, the Florida standards were pretty much still looked a lot like Common Core, but they changed the name. And now Florida is moving to the BEST standards, and BEST stands for benchmarks for excellent student thinking. So, we love acronyms in education. This one, I feel like they stretch for a little bit. But the other thing that kind of struck me is the standards have continued to change over the years. This means that we buy new textbooks. We are required to keep up and adopt the state textbooks. And we get some funding for that from the state, but the actual cost is far greater. So there is some expense here. This means training our teachers now all to be able to instruct on these standards. So there's a lot that goes into this. And over the next 2 years, we're going to have new standards for both English language arts and math. Yesterday, the governor had a big announcement that he's doing away with the FSA testing. That testing, though we will still be on the hook this year, the governor's timeline showed that we'd still test this fall on the current standards and the FSA testing. And then FY23, the following school year, there would be a kind of a break from accountability as the new they're shifting away from an annual, like kind of 1 year high stakes test to basically 3 tests throughout a school year. And we don't have a lot of details yet. It actually sounds pretty good and more in line with what we think would be good for our students, but we're kind of awaiting some of the details to see how that really will shake out. But the notion seems good that we get away from one really high stakes test that may be administered as early as, February, March, which means, you've got some months to go there in the school year that the kids are not benefiting from before they have to take this huge test, and to have a more incremental approach with a few checkpoints throughout the year. So I like the sound of that. We're going to want to get more information. And the best standards, we don't have a choice. We'll be adopting these standards. Hopefully, it sounds good to prepare students to be able to think on their own. I mean, that's been a push for a while. I was trying to think back, I graduated high school in 1985. I couldn't tell you what the standards were called back then, but they've probably changed at least a dozen times since then. So I'm thinking I'm lucky that I can think at all maybe at this point. But anyway, moving on. School food service, some good news. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is going to pick up the tab for breakfast and lunch again this year. So we can offer free breakfast and lunch to all students. It doesn't, regardless of income, they don't have to apply or qualify. And that's a nice thing to be able to offer. We do offer also like a la carte items. So if you have a student in school and you're saying it's still costing you money, that's possible, right? Your student may be electing to buy a Gatorade or a cookie or what have you. Mental and behavioral health is a major area of focus. And this, once again, is something that the 2018 referendum was really instrumental in shoring up our ability to serve our students. We now have a behavioral health specialist on every campus. And we also have a wide network of agencies throughout the county that we partner with and we contract with to make sure that as we identify students that might be in need of some supports and services, that we're able to connect them with that provider and the district is able to fund it. So I feel much better about, I think Palm Beach County leads probably the country in this area. And so it was a nice thing to have in place as we brought students back from COVID, 35% of them which had not set foot on a campus for over 17 months. One of the first things we want to do is be able to kind of look at our students in the eye, check with them, see if they're doing okay, if they were, they had any anxiety or concerns or, issues they were dealing with that as a result of COVID or being out of school for so long. We wanted to make sure that we first address them on that social emotional level, make sure they're feeling good. And then, once we take care of that, we know then they can move on to worrying about catching up on the academic issues. And that support and assistance is out there. We have a Caring First website and we can direct families to, and we encourage families to take advantage of these services. And again, we've got the resources, thanks both to the referendum and also the federal money I mentioned earlier. So it's nice for me as the former CFO to be able to say money's not an issue here, that we really, we have the resources available and this is critically important to us. We want to make sure all of our kids are doing well. All right, so there's many ways to keep in touch with the school district. I am not on social media personally, but our communications team does a good job of keeping the district represented and allowing people these avenues to stay in touch, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. We've also, of course, got our website and we've got a YouTube channel out there where we post a lot of videos. So there's many ways to follow the district. And that's my presentation. So at this point, Dr. Gunlock, I would be happy to open up for any questions.
Okay, we have some questions in the question and answer. The first one from Kimberly Spire O. Are you and the board going to develop a strict policy/rule about decorum during board meetings and workshops? At a recent meeting, one of my colleagues on the DDEC tried to make a 3-minute presentation about a non-mask issue, and I could barely hear her. Government entities are allowed to implement rules to manage the First Amendment speech.
So yes, the answer is yes. The board has their own policy. It's policy 1.03 that kind of governs their meetings. That policy is in development. They've made some changes. On top of that, I can tell you our board chair, he's got a tough job. I sit next to him now, on the dais, and you may have noticed if you watch recent board meetings, he's had to take a much tougher stance with crowd members that have been kind of unruly. So we had to arrest a gentleman a few weeks back. We are bringing more security into our meetings, and our chairman, Frank Barbieri, I think has really been very adamant and kind of forceful in trying to first establish the ground rules at the start of the meeting and then enforce them as we go along. It's a challenge. It's kind of hard to combat the murmurs and to always pinpointing who the person is that's making noise. I know we had an unfortunate incident where we had a member that was addressing the board, and there was some of the audience was making mischief in the background, and just inappropriate stuff. So we've also kind of reconfigured our room. We have moved where we have a speaker now. When they're at the microphone addressing the board, their backdrop is a wall. So takes away that ability for the crowd to try to disparage them or mock them or send another message while they have their 3 minutes. We've also installed more cameras in our room so that we can, the board chair can monitor the surroundings better. It's a tricky issue with law enforcement when you go to deal with someone who's unruly in a public meeting. The officers don't have the discretion just to go around and maybe pick people out of the audience. They have to be directed by our board chair during the meeting. And so while we have all these responsibilities, to provide public access, and we've tried to do that, unfortunately, in this climate, it's proven to be very challenging as the community's been very polarized. So we're working on that. I understand the concerns. I can tell you it is something taken very seriously by our school board, and we're doing everything we can. We want to maintain a level of decorum and civility and allow people to share their views, but to do it, in a civil manner. And so that's a work in progress. I do think there's been improvement in recent weeks, and I think it'll continue to improve because the board is just, I think everyone has lost patience. We cannot entrust the audience to self-police and to come in and observe, a level of decorum that is appropriate.
Thank you for that answer. Another question is, it's been reported that the state is withholding some funds that are from the federal government to the district, to all districts, school districts in Florida. Is that true? And how much monies are we talking about?
So it's the American Rescue Plan dollars. There's two potential answers to this question. First, the big umbrella is the American Rescue Plan dollars, which was known as ESSER 3. And we've had access now to ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. Our state is slow to open up the application process for ESSER 3. And they are still working through, the state is still navigating some application process at the federal level. But yes, it hasn't been a major concern for me yet because the ESSER 2 dollars have addressed our most pressing needs. But I expect those ESSER 3 dollars to become available any time now. It is starting to get later and later. And as a former finance officer, our new finance officer, I know, is checking in with the State Department of Education on a weekly basis to see, what's going on there and when are we going to get access. We have to kind of go through almost a reimbursement process to get those dollars. So the state also, once they open up the application, we have to let them know how we intend to use the dollars, and then they have to also approve it. So the state does play a key role in that. Now, the other potential part of that question is the situation we find ourselves in with the mask issue, right? That we've kind of defied the governor, and the governor has already issued sanctions to Alachua and Broward County. We are still going through the investigation process, so we haven't been sanctioned yet. But if the governor does follow suit and withhold funds equivalent to the school board member salaries, like was done in Broward County, the presidential plan that was released last week, the president's pathway out of the pandemic, includes direct federal funding directly to school districts to offset any state penalties. So I don't expect, if we go down that road, our school board members' salaries will not be disrupted. I'm going to take the president up on his offer and draw down those funds. And I was kind of pleased to see that it was very specific, that it would be directly, and this is very unusual, but it'll be directly from the USDOE to individual school districts.
Wow.
So I thought that was a very nice measure by President Biden. And that way we don't have to deal with any type of interference at the state level.
Thank you. Angela Rozier asked, could you please explain again the test to stay program for students instead of quarantining them at home, how that would work?
Yes, so how that would work was rather than send the student home for 5 days, that we would test the student each day for 5 days, and they'd have to be tested at the beginning of school. We might have to set up, a separate room or tables out front, but upon arrival, we would try to do a rapid antigen test of the student. And if it's confirmed to be negative, we allow the student just to continue on to their class. And that would continue 5 days in a row. And again, we have not released that yet. And right now I'm trying to work out through the logistics if it's even possible. But that would be one way to try to mitigate sending so many kids home that are missing out on instruction.
Will the new referendum be just school district or all municipalities too?
So we have 2 referendums in play. The most current one that's coming up for renewal in 2022, which will be on the November general election ballot, is the 1 mil levy for school operations. And that 1 mil, that's the one that we increased from a 1/4 mil that we'd had for a long time, but we increased it 4 years ago to improve teacher pay. So that 1 mil pays for about 750 teacher positions in our fine arts and choice programs. It also provided what we called referendum supplements, where teachers with 1 year would get a $1,000 supplement. If they had 5 to 9 years, they got a $5,000 supplement per year. And if they had 10 or more years, they got a $10,000 supplement. So that was huge. That was something, teacher salaries had really suffered during the Great Recession. Florida has whittled down education funding over my last 20 years of my career anyway. In the last 12 years, we've gone from 36 in the country to 46 in the country. So what we saw was just our teacher salaries were getting compressed, and that referendum was key in trying to recognize the experience of our teachers. So we want to continue that. It also paid for the behavioral health specialist, and it paid for doubling the size of our police department. And you may recall that referendum came in the wake of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy. So it was critically important. The big issue with that referendum has been charter schools. We were very deliberate in our language and our board that the referendum was specific to district operated public schools. So we excluded charter schools. We made it clear to the voters. It was still passed overwhelmingly, but we've gone through a series of legal challenges. So unfortunately, we just lost. And we really felt like we were within the law to do what we did, and we had done it before. The law changed subsequent to our referendum to now require that future referendums include charter schools. But what just happened to us is that we won in the lower court in the 15th Circuit. We won at the 4th District Court of Appeals. And the first appeal was held by a panel of 3 judges. We won on a 2-to-1 ruling. The dissenting judge then petitioned that court to do an en banc review, which means all 12 judges review the case and they revisit the ruling. And when that occurred, and it was kind of interesting, the one judge who petitioned for that en banc review actually then had to recuse himself because he had a conflict with his wife working for a law firm that does work with charter schools. But so we were left with 11 judges and we lost 7-4 on the en banc review. Our board appealed to the Florida Supreme Court to please hear the case, and they just turned us down. And so that was kind of our last hope. Our judge, the local judge is now doling out like how we'll pay the money and all that, just required us to pay for this school year and next school year. So it was a 4-year referendum. We know we have to pay 2 of those years, and we're actually paying by Friday to start getting that money out to the charter schools. The last question to be determined is the first 2 years of the referendum that we've already spent the money. We were within we had the court ruling in our favor. We were within the law. We may have to go back. The worst case scenario is we have to go back and come up with about $45 million to pay the charter schools for those first 2 years. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I will be testifying at a hearing about that. So that's your question. That's one referendum. I do want to mention the second referendum, the municipalities. That was the capital referendum. That was the local government infrastructure surtax referendum, which goes towards capital projects really we had both the county, cities, and school districts had a lot of deferred maintenance. As a school district, the legislature had cut our local taxing authority for capital improvements. So that's a 10-year span. That's in place until 2026. And that was the one that was kind of unique, where we partnered with the county and the cities. I don't know what the plans are yet for 2026. It's possible the school district could go back on our own and just ask for a half penny. But that's a little further down the road. The immediate one that has my full attention is really this November 2022, because that's not too far away. And now we have the challenge of bringing the charter schools into the fold with us. We're going to work hard to make sure that the public knows that we'll hold the charter schools accountable, that this money will go to where it's directed to go, because the ballot language is very specific. And, we've got some work to do with the community, and hopefully some of these challenges we've had with the community will not hurt us on election day.
Okay. Some states are utilizing the federal dollars to enlist tutors for the elementary students that have fallen behind grade level in various subjects. There are many retired seniors living in the area of the district that could be trained as volunteers to do virtual or in-person tutoring once or twice a week in small group or on one-on-one. Does Palm Beach County have any plans to utilize volunteers as tutors or university students as paid tutors, or I'm going to add, or retired teachers as paid tutors?
That's a great idea. And I would say, yes, we need to consider all of those avenues, because what I'm finding with our regular teachers, we saw this in the spring, they're a little tired. They've had a rough couple of years, and they're not always willing to work the extra hours just because they feel like they had their hands full with the regular school day. So I think these are great suggestions. We are looking at that. We've hired some academic tutors, we call them, that are kind of more of a temporary job. We could do that. That would be something we could hire anyone into, a retired teacher or volunteer or student. We're going to continue to expand that. I think you're going to see a lot of tutoring over the next 3 years. And that's a great idea. And we are doing some of that. We'll probably do more of it. There are also contracted companies, there's firms that'll do tutoring online, that type of thing. So we haven't ruled out anything. And I'm working closely with our principals to kind of determine what they feel like will have the biggest impact.
Okay, we have another one that's in the chat. The school board will now have to hand over approximately $50 million in referendum proceeds to charter schools. Yet charter schools have closed. In 2015 alone, there were 6 schools that failed, and there are reports that are several in trouble presently. What happens to the taxpayers' dollars when these schools fail?
Well, when they fail and they close, taxpayer dollars can be lost. We've wrestled with that, over the last couple of decades. We've gotten, we do everything we can within our authority to oversee them from a financial standpoint. So we're looking at their financial records on a monthly basis. We try to recognize kind of red flags when we see them, and there is a process. In Florida, it seems like all the processes kind of seem to favor the charter schools, so just being honest with you. But we work really hard to try to maintain a level of fiscal accountability. It's, and it has gotten better. I mean, I remember some of the charter schools that were really flagrant that we had to, shut down. The last one that was really tough was Eagle Arts Academy, but eventually, we did close them. And we go after whatever resources are there to recover the taxpayer dollars. I can tell you with this referendum, the ballot language requires an independent oversight committee. And we're subject to that. And I'm going to make sure the charter schools are also subject to that, so that they'll have to tell us, how they're going to spend. They have to spend these dollars for something that's within that ballot language, right? So, and there's some, teacher pay, the fine arts, security, mental health, but we're going to hold them to that. And we have to, because the district can't afford really to lose the support of our community over a few bad actors. So we're going to work really hard. We do have charter schools. Many of them, they do a good job. They're professional about it, and they've been in the business now, some of them for a long time. We're going to have to just really work really hard to address those concerns, because that's what worries me, right? I would hate to see voters lose faith in the referendum because of a charter school now being included.
What do you think of the new edict that civics classes must teach about the evils of communism? Are you concerned about more changes in curriculum that may be part of a political agenda? How much flexibility do districts have in developing curriculum like this?
Well, let me just answer shortly. I guess I am a little concerned, right? It seems like we're politicizing made too many things these days. There seems to be a false narrative out there with, this whole critical race theory that was just being a drumbeat that schools are doing something inappropriate. We don't teach critical race theory. We teach history, and we have to teach the actual history, the good and the bad. And what I am a little concerned when I feel like there's movements to say, look, we're going to ignore certain history and focus on other stuff that we're proud of. No, it's if history makes some people uncomfortable, then so be it. That's the way it is, and that's how you learn not to repeat it. We'll monitor this very carefully. I mentioned, we have the new BEST standards. There is new social studies standards. There's curriculum. What I see usually at the legislative level is all these things that kind of, we're going to teach patriotism. We're going to make people more aware of our founders, and and I don't have a problem with that, and why it's great, why America is a great country. That's terrific, but we just have to be careful that it's not at the expense of ignoring other aspects of history. So, thank you.
How is the district ensuring to meet the needs of the FY22 graduates that will be impacted by the proposed Concordant benchmarks, which are Algebra 1 EOC and Grade 10 ELA, especially with the challenges and complications with quarantine, shortage of teachers, etc.?
Boy, these are such good questions. You have the most informed group here I think I've faced, but that is a great question. Yeah, that's a concern of ours, right? Because the Concordant scores used to be one more way to get a student to graduation, and it was typically important to many of our students who may not speak English as a first language. So what that allows is that students, if they get a good score on the ACT or SAT, it can be substituted for the state standards test. And so what we're doing to help combat that is, there's more that goes into that. But one of the things, that thing with the ACT and SAT, that's still available to our students. And so what we're doing is providing more free testing during the regular school day, so that students can come in and take the ACT or SAT. And then we're providing more like, my kids went to score at the top, right? There's consultants and there's tutoring programs and there's support that help kids just focus on getting prepared for those high stakes tests. So we're doing some of that. And, if I would have had Dr. Sheffield here with me, our chief academic officer, she would have given you a stronger answer, I'm sure. I know that the loss of the Concordant scores was a big concern, that we're going to see graduation rates suffer, and I'm trying to support the academic team with whatever we can do, whatever resources we can put behind that to try to mitigate that impact.
And as I like to explain to people, what happens annually is they change the goal for teachers and students of what scores should be appropriate for graduation or promotion. And so it's like being a car salesman, and in January, they tell you you'll get your bonus if you sell 4 cars by April. And then in April, you've sold your 4 cars, and they say, oh, by the way, in May, you really have to sell 10 more. So it's a constant moving target that teachers and students have to meet, which makes it difficult. So with the ending of the high stakes testing, that may help it. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, thank you for that. And one of our questions, said, yes, Concordant scores are also important for students with disabilities. So yeah,
Yes.
we were very disappointed in that change, and now we got to just do our best to work with it.
How is the district when will the district redistrict?
Okay, so every 10 years with the census, we have to redraw our board member districts, and we're in that process right now. So we have the numbers. You have to look at the population, and the idea is that we have 7 board member districts, and you try to get them as close to equal as possible. So our planning department has worked through the numbers. We'll be having a workshop, I believe it's in October. Well, between October and November, our job is to get that done by December and determine new school board member districts. So that process is underway.
Okay. how can the league help the school district? What can we do to help support you in your work?
Well, I like the work you guys have been doing with the voter registration drives, giving us this forum that when we have an issue on the ballot to help us come present it. And then you guys do your own homework, and study the merits of it. Trying to think, we mentioned civics education earlier. I think this group's particularly well qualified to help us with what that needs to look like if we need to supplement any of the state curriculum. I don't know. I guess I would just like to thank you for what you've done to date. And I'd like to keep this relationship and stay in contact here. And let me know if you have some ideas. You mentioned, the tutoring, and we really need substitute teachers. We need bus drivers. If you can help us identify anybody that would like to become part of our team, either full-time or part-time, we need good employees.
One of the things we do, Superintendent Burke, is we do have a very active civics education committee that has worked with the school district personnel to bring, we have many crossword puzzles and books and things that we do. And it's a very active group, and they've really had the support of the school district and work well with them. Do we have any more questions? I don't see any more. Well, I thank you. Do you see any more in
I
the?
was just rolling through to see if I covered them or not. Let me check the chat. I think we may have covered it, but I tell you, it's been a great audience. I wish I could see you all. I'm looking at myself here, Dr. Gunlock and I. But anyway, I hope I answered your questions. I hope this was informative. I really appreciate your support of our schools, and we're doing our best to work through a tough situation. And we've got a great school board that's committed to that. And I'm fortunate to have their support. And I'm just really excited to have this opportunity. I've been with the district for 23 years. So I always kind of aspired, I was always kind of wanted a shot at trying to sit in this seat. And so I'm doing my best. Right? Yeah, be careful what you wish for. But no, I'm really excited about it. And so far, so good.
Well, we all want to thank you. There's a lot of positive in the chat about thanking you. What a great job you've done. What a great job you're doing. And I've always found you so easy to work with, and enjoyed it. Even as I said, we were on opposite sides of the table. You always made it okay. So, and I have to tell everybody here, he is a great steward of the taxpayers' dollars. He really is. And so thank you. You have our contact information. Feel free to reach out anytime. And great presentation, and thank you so much.
All right,
and everybody, I want to thank you for participating. We had quite a number of people. Again, this was recorded live. It's on our Facebook page. Please check the calendar for our other activities and upcoming hot topics and conversations. And thank you all so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.